Hello, everybody. Hi. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Hey, before we get rolling, if you want to support the podcast, patreon.com/RobZRadio. Patreon.com/RobZRadio. Patreon is amazing. It's a platform that lets anybody who's an artist who, I'm calling myself an artist, who creates their own thing, whether it's podcasting, musicians, or whatever it might be. It's a way for people who like what you do to support what you do. They can give as little as $1. You might be able to give as little as a penny. If you want to give me a penny, I'll take a penny. Nobody even carries a penny anymore, but you can transfer it digitally through the air on patreon.com/RobZRadio. So that'd be cool if you did that. It would be like totally new age and old age. Old age? Old age. All at the same time. Shout out to the sponsors of the podcast who make this thing possible. Thanks to Juice. Thank you, Juice. Jen at Juice. That's Joos. Jen runs the joint. Her crew is amazing. They made cold-pressed juice and smoothies, smoothie bowls, bone broth, hot soups, raw vegan baked goods, everything fresh and made to order for you in downtown Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Shout out to the Clay Cup at 1304 11th Avenue in Altoona. The Clay Cup is all about coffee, tea, and creativity. Sarah, who runs the joint, has like the super top-end, high-end, state-of-the-art espresso machine. And if you are into espresso, I know you want like the best espresso. I can't really handle espresso. It gives me the jitters. It gives me way too much energy way too quickly. Like I like my energy level, if I'm going to consume something, to come on slowly. Espresso is like boom, punching you in the face with so much. So if you like that, if that's what your life is about and you need that energy kick immediately, then the Clay Cup is the spot to go. Plus it's a great place to meet people and to express your creative expressions. Express your creative expressions. I think I used the word express too much in that. But either way, the Clay Cup, downtown Altoona, Pennsylvania. Check out the Clay Cup on Facebook and Instagram. And to trade secrets, Steph and Andy run the joint at Secrets and Trade on their Facebook. They're in Altoona, Pennsylvania. All natural body care line of products. All in-house research and development done on these products, so you know that there's no added chemicals or weird ingredients put in by Deep State. That's right, Big Brother's putting aluminum in your deodorant, but that doesn't happen at Trade Secrets. Sugar scrubs, bath bars, all natural deodorants, lip balms, whipped body butters, body lotions. They have it at Trade Secrets. Check out Secrets in Trade on Facebook. And all the music, by the way, that you hear on this podcast is because of my man Jake Over. So Jake Over provides you with all of the tunes, all the beats you hear on here. So if you're into music production, you need music for whatever. If you're a rapper or if you host a podcast or make videos or anything, hook up, call up, message Jake Over. You can find him on Facebook. That is Jake Over. Now, let's start the show.
This is Rob Z Radio.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome, Zebras, to the podcast today. This is going to be an interesting episode because what I'm going to talk about is something that I don't think a lot of people know about. I really didn't even know about until just recently. I'd say up to maybe 4 or 5 months ago. The Reticular Activating System. RAS, Reticular Activating System. So my man Ray Overdorf, who actually is mentoring me right now, who I've been working with now for several months, first introduced me to the idea of the Reticular Activating System. It's something that is working inside of all of our brains. And then I was listening to Tony Robbins. If you listen to this podcast, you know I talk about Tony Robbins very often because a lot of the stuff that I either have known about beforehand or I'm finding out about now is reminded to me because of him. So he was just talking about it in a talk that I was listening to from him. And really the Reticular Activating System is that thing inside of your brain whenever you are thinking about buying a new car and you're thinking about that car. Like say it's a Prius or something like that. I don't know what your life is like. Maybe you're a liberal. But if you're thinking about that car, all of a sudden you're going to see that car anywhere that you go. Everywhere that you go, you're going to see the Prius. And it's going to pop up over and over and over again. And it's going to be like, wow, how all of a sudden are all of these people driving these Priuses? I've never noticed them all over the road before. Well, they've been there that whole time. You just haven't told your mind that's what you wanted to pay attention to. So as I talk about this reticular activating system, understand that I'm not a scientist. Understand that I don't study the brain, and this information may be a little bit off. So do your own investigating along with the information that I'm going to give you, but I'm going to talk about it in the way that I understand it. So When Ray first introduced, by the way, Ray Overdorf, you can find him on past podcasts. I've had him on this podcast twice. Scroll back through the episodes, and you can find him in there. It's Rob. If you're watching this video on video, it's Rob Z Radio on any podcast app. You can go back and find Ray's podcasts. But the reticular activating system is, when you decide what is important to you, the brain starts to go after it. When you find something and you want to focus on it, you start noticing it everywhere that you go. It's a real thing. So that's not just like something that you thought was happening. Like, wow, this is serendipity, or what are the chances, deja vu, or whatever you want to call it. Why am I seeing this thing all of a sudden now that I'm thinking about it? There's too much stuff for us to focus on. Our brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So let's just think about this. Just take this as an example. Try to think about two things at once, okay? I'm just going to give you two things right now, and I'll give you a chance to try to think about them at the same time. Think about adding 1 plus 1, okay? Add 1 plus 1. Now, at the same time, think about the Eiffel Tower, okay? So 1 plus 1, the Eiffel Tower. Think about both of those at the same time. Do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. Your brain, when we talk about multitasking, really our brain can't multitask. You can juggle back and forth between thinking about two things, but you can't actually think about two things at the same time. Our brain doesn't work that way. That's kind of crazy, right? You might think like, man, I'm multitasking, I'm killing it. I used to want to be a multitasker, and I've realized that I am not a good multitasker. And then I learned about the fact that your brain actually cannot physically think about two things at once. And the more you try to think about multiple things at the same time, the less focus you are putting on all of those things. So I've given up on multitasking altogether. I'm going to go get one thing done, then get another thing done, then get another thing done. And that really helps me to remember, okay, you're not a superhuman. And anybody who's multitasking, they might be good at doing multiple tasks at different times within the same time period, but you can't do two things at once. Your brain does not work like that because there's too much going on. Even before the internet, even before computers, there was even too much going on back then for your brain to focus on multiple things at one time. Even when you were the days of growing up and living on a farm and milking cows and getting your own food and all of that, we still were just thinking of one thing at a time, focusing on one, moving on to the other. But the reticular activating system was there because whenever your mind focused on something, whenever you really wanted to make something happen or you wanted something to stand out to you, the reticular activating system would show that thing to you more often, over and over and over again. Now, the reason I think it's really powerful today is because today there's so many distractions. There's like, over the past 15, 20 years, the level of distractions has probably, I would love to know what a scientist would say the percentage is, like 1 million more percent. Like how many more millions of percentages are there of things to distract you now in society? Every single day you get on social media, you are immediately distracted by everything. It's designed that way. It's designed to distract you, to hopefully gear you towards something that you are interested in, that you want, and hopefully you're going to buy that thing because somebody's selling you something and they want you to look at it, whether they're selling you their thoughts or selling you their time or just making you buy something or whatever it is. Whether it's benefiting your life or not, that's the situation. So when I think about the reticular activating system, which I've now said about 50 times in this podcast, I like it because it reminds me, okay, if I really want to focus on something in my life, if I really want to make something work in my life, then I need to just make sure my brain is focusing on it. That's why if you listen back, I don't know if it was the last episode or 2 episodes ago, I was talking about Tony Robbins and how every morning when I'm stretching, I put on audio from Tony Robbins just to kind of, it's great in the morning. It's always motivating. He always has great information. He's always shifting my mind in the right direction. And therefore, early in the day, I'm automatically reminding myself, okay, these are the right things to focus on. My brain, whether consciously or subconsciously, is picking up on what he's talking about, and it's going to show more of that to me throughout the day because I'm showing that that's important to me in my life. Just like if you love fail videos or if you look at a lot of porn or anything, the more you look at it, the more that your brain perceives that to be important to you, the more you're going to think about it and notice it. So think about drug addicts, think about an alcoholic. I mean, that's a main portion of their life. That's something they focus on a lot. Therefore, their brain is going to remind them of that thing a lot, which we could call addiction. Our brain is also going to draw them towards people who are more likely to be involved in those things. It's going to draw them towards more people who likely have those things, that know how to get those things, and that can create the whole addictive environment that, millions of people live in. Now, I love the idea of inversion. Let's take that addiction mentality, that mindset, and let's invert it. Let's flip it. So on the other end, if say you're really excited and passionate about eating healthy food, or you're really passionate about having beneficial information and people in your life. So if you're thinking about that a lot, if you're thinking about healthy food and you're cooking healthy food and you're trying to draw yourself towards that more, the more you pay attention to it. My wife's a great example. She watches tons of videos on Pinterest, on YouTube about healthy cooking, about vegetarian cooking, about vegan cooking. That's what she spends a lot of her time focusing on. Therefore, her brain is always thinking about that. So she finds more content like that, and she's eating more healthy food. She's making more healthy food. Therefore, I'm also consuming more healthy food, because left to my own devices, I don't know if I, even with my reticular activating system, I would maybe be drawn towards the healthy stuff, but would I take the time to cook it? I don't know. But the point of what I'm telling you is she's drawn more towards that and more towards more healthy eaters and towards more of a healthy lifestyle because she pays attention to that thing. So if your life is full of negativity and negative people and negative things, maybe it's addictions or maybe it's, I don't know, whatever it could be. You tell me. You're living your life. I'm living my life. And I know for years I was like addicted to documentaries and just watching TV all the time. So that's what my mind always reminded me of. Finding people who also sat on the couch and watched lots of TV, finding other people who also were deeply invested in conspiracy theories, and not saying those things aren't fine in moderation, but when you're spending your time doing that all the time, thinking about that all the time, your mind is always going towards that all the time. I hope in this short episode I could explain that to you. I hope that made sense to you, because it can sound confusing. When you hear the word reticular activating system, that sounds like a computer program that somebody created that's going to use the internet to hypnotize you or something like that. But really, it's something that your brain, this computer inside of your head, has designed to make sure you're focusing on the right things. And in your life right now, in my life right now, in the world right now, we could really use something that helps us focus on the right things. So put your mind towards those things that you want in life. Put your mind towards those things that are going to help change your life, and they're going to start showing up to you more and more and more. That goes for things and for people. Okay, so try that. What's something in your life that you want your reticular activating system to move you towards? Tell me. Leave me a message on any social platform, or you can also hit me up, robzradio.com. Click that contact me button. I hope this has helped. I hope this helped you, and I hope that you look more into the reticular activating system. If you don't believe me, just look it up. I promise you, it's 100% true. It's amazing. Zebras, thank you for joining the show. Shout out to the sponsors, the Clay Cup, Trade Secrets, and Juice, and shout out to my man DDP. DDP Yoga is a sponsor on the podcast because I use DDP Yoga. It's something that I put a lot of focus into, and my mind drew me towards it. I was a huge professional wrestling fan for many years, still am, and a lot of those wrestlers were beat up from back in the day. Guys like Scott Hall, Jake the Snake Roberts, Mick Foley, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, like guys who their bodies were broken down from years of wrestling. I know wrestling's fake, I'll use the air quotes, but it's one of the most brutal forms of entertainment that there is. Those guys work almost every single day of the year, and they beat their bodies up. So Diamond Dallas Page was one of those guys back in the 90s whose body was beat up from professional wrestling, so he designed his own form of yoga. So he doesn't like to call it yoga, it's called DDP yoga. DDPY, because it's different from what yoga actually is. You have the yoga aspect in, but he brings an energy and fun and excitement to the world of yoga. It's definitely more tailored towards guys and getting a sweatier workout, and it's not as calm as normal yoga is, but you can really make it as calm as you want to. That's one of the best parts is he always says make DDPY your own. You can make it whatever you want it to be. So that's one of the things that I love. So I had back pain, shoulder pain. I still do to some extent, and I kept being drawn closer and closer to his yoga because I, number one, saw all these professional wrestlers whose bodies were broken down have their bodies changed. A lot of them got back into the ring and started wrestling again, including DDP on an occasional basis, because their bodies had been healed from this form of yoga, DDPY. If you want to know more about it, Just Google it. Go to ddpyoga.com. I would not promote it on this podcast if I didn't use it myself and if I didn't believe in it. So trust me that it works, and I will go down saying it is the best workout I've ever had in my entire life. And every time I do it, I am so happy that I did do it. So ddpyoga.com. Check that out. And also patreon.com/RobZRadio if you want to support the podcast. Thank you so much, Zebras. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.
This is Rob Z Radio.
That's brutal.